Bismillah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sulasmi and my register number is A1M219069 and I as Deputy Prime Minister. The struggle of human rights defenders to abolish the death penalty is based more on the doctrine of humanity, namely love for others. In this case, the death penalty will actually lead to a cycle of violence, where everyone will be in a situation of wanting revenge, getting hurt, and feeling traumatized. In the perspective of Western human rights, if violence is retaliated with violence, that the result of constitution continuous crime. It is different if violence is reciprocated for forgiveness and love efforts. And the country's constitution has recognized that the right to life cannot be reduced for any reason. Then the abolition of the application of the death penalty is a constitutional obligation. However, it is strange that the United Nations and America turned a blind eye when former Iraqi President Saddam Hussein was sentenced to death. Likewise, for several terrorist cases, they approached and emphasized countries where terrorists were involved in punishing the perpetrators of terrorist crimes. Even the former Prime Minister of Australia, John Howard, asked the President of Indonesia that the perpetrators of the Bali Bombing 1 and Bali bombing to be sentenced to death. It can be seen that the United Nations and countries that reject the death penalty have a double opinion on certain cases that often the interests of the state and its citizens. On the one hand, rejecting the death penalty for humanist reasons, but on the other hand, forcing the death penalty to be carried out. In fact, almost all countries that reject the death penalty still impose penalties in a certain way for certain offenses. There are several theories that can be used as a basis to support the death penalty, including the absolute theory, the relative theory, and the combined theory. According to the absolute theory, the condition of justification for imposing a crime are included in the crime itself. However, whoever causes suffering, then he must suffer. This can be seen in the opinion of Immanuel Kant, which states that in law, a criminal cannot be imposed only as a means to promote the general welfare. Punishment can only be imposed on a person because he is guilty of a crime. The relative theory states that the imposition of punishment depends on the accepted efforts of the imposition of punishment itself, namely so that a person does not repeat his action. This can be seen as Feuerbach's opinion. In theory, it requires deterrence not through punishment, but through criminal threats and legalization. Thomas Aquinas' combined theory distinguishes between criminal as a criminal and criminal as a drug. When the state imposes a crime, it is so necessary to pay attention to the function of general prevention of special prevention. With the teaching will create the satisfaction of the conscience of the community, and there will be a sense of security for the community. Learning and fear will also merge in society, including the correction of criminals. Of the state in imposing a crime of retaliation, deterrence, and improvement is subordinate to the benefit of imposing the crime. Crime as retaliation is seen as a means to enforce the rule of law. So far, there have been many accusations against the concept of the death penalty, especially those regulated in the Islamic law, which are often described as cruel, inhuman, and sadistic. The horrible impression behind the death penalty is the popular impression that surrounds the application of Islamic criminal law in society modern. The impression or criticism, which was initially launched by the West, was not only because they did not they did not like the concept of corporal punishment, but rather because their moral feelings were not fully developed. So, the death penalty is not a violation of the law because the application of the death penalty is enforced in order to protect the institution of life. Life is a human right for everyone, so the state, in the name of law, protects its citizens from legal events that harm the community. Although the recognition of the death penalty is not the same as Islamic criminal law, Indonesian criminal law still applies the death penalty carefully and within the limits set by law. The death penalty is Islamic criminal law is to protect religions, soul, mind, lineage, and property. Violence of the five basic human rights is the form of adultery, arson, intentional murder, haribah, and apostasy. Violation of in Islamic law, the death penalty for ta'zir is also known, namely if the death penalty is desired by the public and this offense is very dangerous. For example, espionage, recidivism, drugs, terrorism, money laundering, and corruption, including the category of ta'zir punishment. Okay, that I think that's for me, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.